When I picked my kid up from daycare today, he said, "Mom, I didn't poo my pants today." With like that level of enthusiasm. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's great. And I feel like that's been my energy this week of like, I didn't poo my pants today.
Bar's pretty low.
Super low. My
That's good
goodness.
because it's Tuesday.
And in case you haven't heard, he doesn't wash his butt on Tuesdays. I'm drinking out of a kid's cup. It was either this or the Capri Sun that was sitting directly next to it.
I mean, it's valid. I ate a stack of gluten-free Oreos after dinner tonight.
I
Like
chose
6
water.
of them. Well, welcome to Enneagram Adventure. This is Tannah and I's podcast where we talk about the Enneagram sometimes, talk about life all the time, kind of focused on growth, development, relationships, how to be a better human. That's kind of the focus. We are both IEQ 9 certified coaches with that Enneagram tool. So if you're interested in an assessment, we can hook you up if you want to slide into our DMs or drop us an email or any of those things. What else?
Disclaimer, the Enneagram is a measure of your core motivation rather than your behavior. So, versus a DISC, Myers Briggs, Strengths Finder, anything else like that you've taken before, that truly measures your behaviors rather than why you do those things. It is certainly not meant to put you in a box, but rather show you the box that you are already in, says my friend Holly. Just a reminder of all of that before we get into it.
So today we're going to talk about a couple of constructs that are part of the Enneagram system. We've talked about both of these before, but we do like to circle back on these and talk about them again. And I do think, at least for me, you learn a little bit more about the Enneagram, like the longer you're involved with it and kind of studying it. So there's sort of always something new to talk about related to these constructs as you learn more. So we're going to talk about subtypes and we're going to talk about tri-type. Do you want to kick us off?
So, I am, for those of you new here, I am a Enneagram 2, the considerate helper, but I am a social subtype. For those of you who have not listened to the Subtype podcast, I think we did a subtype, like just straight up subtypes one time, way back in the beginning of this adventure. But it is how you live your type is the best way to describe that, right? Well, I am a social subtype, and that shows up for me in the where does the group need me to fall in? Like, where am I going to fill in the gaps to make this group the best it can be? Is generally how that shows up for me. People, there's this like kind of misnomer with social subtype of that you're a social butterfly and you are a social being. Not the case all the time. So, important disclaimer there.
I think that disclaimer is important because I often find myself explaining it to people when they get their Enneagram
Yes.
results back, where they're like, yeah, but I'm an introvert. How can I be a social
Mm-hmm.
subtype? And they're not,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the same. It's not the same thing.
So I would say while my husband is generally speaking social, like meaning extroverted, he is also a social subtype, but he challenged, that was one of the first things that he challenged with his coaching companion when he got it back was, well, I don't feel like I'm super social. That's not what it means. It just means you know what the group needs from you, belonging, and actually sometimes status. I just heard that on a different podcast related to subtypes like a couple months ago. And it was really focused on threes, but status meaning like where you fall in terms of maybe the hierarchy of a group or the perceived hierarchy of a group.
Yeah, the social subtypes are really, regardless of what number they are, to your point, are really perceiving themselves as part of community or part of groups and putting whatever their spin is on what the community or group needs from them.
I
The
find I find that your subtype explains your kind of how you show up in your number more than just your number itself.
and last week, 2 weeks, I'm not sure how many episodes ago it was at this point, but we did an episode where we talked a lot about relationships and what numbers might get along with each other really well or what numbers might have conflict and why or whatever. So you can go back and listen to that one if you're interested, but we didn't talk about the subtype influence on those things. And recently, Suzanne Stabile was speaking at something and a video of her popped up where she talked about the subtype can cause more conflict in relationship than the actual type. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, yeah, that's true, right? That it's often a certain subtype, regardless of number, that can kind of where I can find a rub depending on how healthy they are, how aware they are, et cetera, et cetera.
There's also it's like your subtype is a little bit involved in what somebody might get mistyped as too, because of how the behavior shows up. So I'm just looking back at this podcast notes that I listened to, a different one, and they explain it as like a self-pres 3 might look like a 1, as an example, or a social 6 might look like a 3.
Yeah.
So
Social
your subtype,
twos often look like threes as well.
yes, yep.
I also think there are subtypes so we won't go through the whole construct, but there are subtypes that are considered the countertype of the number, so of the core type, and I am representative of that. So if you're new here and this happens to be your first time stumbling onto this podcast, one, welcome. But also, I'm a 5, and I am a 1-to-1 subtype. And the 1-to-1 subtype is considered the counter type of 5. And the reason that it's called the counter type is it's like the core motivation of the 5 and the sort of withdrawing part of that collecting of energy, or not collecting, saving of energy, collecting of knowledge, all of those sort of things that are core to a 5. The 1-to-1 subtype sort of like operates, I don't want to say the opposite, but it is a little bit in opposition with those things. The 1-to-1 subtype brings a certain level of intensity. That's how I like to describe it. I find personally that 1-to-1 subtypes, regardless of if they're a counter type number, because not all of them are counter types when they're 1-to-1, but I find that the 1-to-1 subtype brings a different level of intensity to whatever number it's attached to. And it has to do with this sort of seeking of intimate relationships. And so when I reflect on how it shows up for me, I much prefer to build relationships in a small group or one-on-one setting. That's very important to me. I have no interest at all whatsoever in small talk or like niceties. Like I'd rather just like jump right into whatever it is that we need to talk about and not kind of worry about all of that stuff. And I really want to experience things on like a big or deep level. Like I want to really know and understand what something feels like. There's a intensity of energy that comes with that. That's how it shows up for me, but I think of other 1-to-1 subtypes that you and I have known. There was a 1-to-1 8 who the presence of that 1-to-1 8 like filled an entire room. There was a 1-to-1 1, right? And the kind of perfectionism that came off of him was also very intense. And to your earlier point of where there could be mistype, sometimes that energy read like an 8 because it was so intense and like so sort of like driven and vocal and big.
You and I know another 1-to-1 5, and he's pretty fascinating too because I'm not as close to him obviously as I am to you. So it feels different for me like watching him in a group setting versus when I'm with him one-on-one because I see this like really open version of him when it's one-to-one, and there's like risk in what, he's willing to share, and there's this openness and like fluidity about him that immediately changes when there's like a large group.
It's a little more careful, a little more. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I will say though, as I've gotten to know him, it's fascinating. I don't want to make this about astrology, but he and I have the same birthday.
That's so weird.
And
That's
he,
so weird.
us, besides that he and I share a birthday, we also have a very similar Enneagram profile. We're both 1-to-1. We are both feels like 4s, where we're different acts like. He's an acts like an 8, I'm an acts like a 9. But we otherwise have, it's very similar, like scarily similar. And what I have kind of learned in getting to know him a little bit is that he also, especially when he was younger in his career, very much like sought out certain experiences, right? Went and lived in Germany for a while, was really into bike racing. He left a corporate job at one point to go write a book, right? So it was very much about like the experiences he kind of wanted to have in his life.
That's so interesting. Now you're making me question. There's a social too that you and I know that she's also married to a first responder, and now I'm like, what is her astrology?
There is no we
Are
like
you a
we
Libra?
are you a Libra? There is like a not I have not found a correlation between Enneagram type and
Zodiac.
astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah, zodiac kind of stuff outside of this particular person, which I like. But I do think that when, maybe there would be correlation if you knew subtype, try, like, right, if you were to stack like all the things,
Yeah.
maybe there would be more correlation. But I think to stack that again, I mean, astrology has all kinds of nuance if you really get into it. And so to like find those exact kind of
Yeah.
correlations would maybe not be the easiest.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
but yeah, so that's a little 1-to-1. So I guess we got to talk about self-preservation, which neither of us are, although Aaron is a self-preservation 9 in our house. But I was going to say on a 1-to-1, there I know several 1-to-1 9s also, and they show up super differently. But I was talking with someone today about one of them, and she was describing, she was like, I don't know, sometimes when I'm with her, she's like, I think, are you actually a 3? And if that, besides the fact that there's a line with 9, which we talked about last week,
Yeah.
besides that, I do wonder sometimes if the 1-to-1 subtype is driving that competitive edge in her.
Yeah,
But I don't
maybe.
know. Yeah.
Maybe. I also think, right, it's tough because if you're experiencing somebody like that in a work setting, I wonder how much of it would be the same outside of a work setting if it's like ego based, you know? I was curious. Okay.
But self-preservation. So the self-preservation subtype I think is the most intuitive. Like when you say like, oh, self-preservation, people immediately kind of get what that might mean. But it's really right, like needing to make sure that you're taken care of and that the people closest to you are taken care of, and everything else is sort of secondary to that. That's like the most kind of basic way to think about it. But it also can drive behaviors that look like self-protection, right? Or like not letting people in or not sharing as much. A self-preservation subtypes can sometimes look like a withdrawing number, right? Because they'll kind of keep to themselves. And again, it's that sort of protect trying to protect themselves kind of behaviors.
There are a couple of self-preservation twos that I didn't find out until later they were self-preservation twos, and I thought they were sixes.
Well, self-preservation 2 is the countertype of 2. So that again, that self-preservation kind of behavior and way of being is in conflict with the considerate helper who's like, let me
Yes.
self-sacrifice, let me give you the shirt off my back, let me, right? So there's like a tension between those
Yeah.
two.
I know most self-preservation numbers that I know are in a work setting. I have never run into someone in my personal life that I know they're subtype and they are self-pres.
I do know some self-preservation 2s in my personal life. Maybe one, actually, if I really think about it. One.
I
But
think,
I think what sometimes, and this is where I think it feels like withdrawing behavior to me in terms of a friend group, there can be that I just want to go be by myself kind of thing that comes out for both of them that I'm thinking of in my personal life. Like the self-preservation can look like what energy conservation looks like in a 5, right? Like I don't have energy to come to the event that you've invited me to. I just want to go lay on my couch. I just need to be by myself. It's sort of this resistance to something that could be that they're worried might be overstimulating. Like it shows up a lot like how we stereotype 5 withdrawing behavior.
with self-preservation, I think I've asked you this question before, like multiple times, where I'll be like, do you think this person's self-preservation? Because I'm really triggered. I'm really like triggered by that. The part of it that can sometimes be triggering for me, and it number matters in this instance, but sometimes I do get tripped up as a result of my own, like, this is a bit of a blind spot for me. Like from the jump, if I'm in a discussion with somebody and I notice that they are clearly in conflict or defense or like are closed off to what I'm saying. So then I sometimes immediately assume that they're self-preservation.
I think I find myself sometimes being judgy of self-preservation. Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases to understand the that sort of operating system, so to speak, on the self-preservation. And while as a 5, yep, I can have strong boundaries and all those sorts of things. There are times where when it shows up in a self-preservation way, I get a little bit like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like I get a little judgy of like, I don't understand like why, right?
I end up thinking, like, why is this so hard? I feel like I get stuck in the mud with the self-preservation subtype sometimes.
Well, yeah, and it's a little bit of it doesn't have to be so hard. Why are you so worried about that? Like
Mhm.
there's nothing to worry. Like you don't I often find myself being like you don't need to worry about that. Like why are you worried about that? And
Why are we entertaining that thought right now?
yeah, why
Yeah.
are we spinning out on this sort of thing? And again, I think sometimes self-preservation numbers or self-preservation subtypes, to your point, like can show up a little bit like 6 energy. It's the getting 10 steps ahead of themselves in an attempt to be protected that can go along with that regardless of the number.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's a little bit tiring sometimes to be around because sometimes if I'm in like a coaching conversation with a self-preservation subtype, maybe this is a little self-fulfilling because oftentimes I know that what that person's number and subtype are before I have that conversation.
sure.
But I end up being like, oh boy, like buckle up. Like I'm gonna have to really like fight through all the what ifs or all the yeah buts or the what happens if this happens, before we get to the core of the issue that we can then coach through.
Well, I was thinking about it today in terms of sometimes like I think this is true of humans generally speaking. So I don't want it to be just self-preservation because I think there are times that I can be guilty of this behavior as well, where it's like you want to know the outcome before you make the decision. And there's like no way. There's no way for you to know, right? Like well, I want to know, how will I know if I'm going to be happy moving to California? How can I like guarantee that for myself, right? I just throw that
Right.
out as an example. Well, you're not going to, there's no possible way to actually know if that's going to be the thing that makes you happy until you go do it. There's no
Yeah.
way. But yet we as human beings, like the way our brains work, we're trying to like predict the future based on what happened to us in the past. And so our like whole system is built on this like loop of these predictions that we're trying to make about things, and we want certainty that we cannot have. And I think, again, regardless of subtype, but self-preservation subtype, I feel like sometimes you can find them sort of living in that desire for this certainty and this security that none of us can actually ever fully have. And it can be
My
like,
God.
well, we don't want to make a decision about step 1 until we know that step 10 is going to be XYZ. Well, like we can't get to step 10 until you take step 1. So can we just take step 1?
You and I were both in a conversation today that we experienced this in, and I wanted to gouge my eyeballs out. It's like, I was
Sometimes you
like,
just,
but sometimes you just have to say, fuck it. Like, we're going to try.
yeah,
And
we're
maybe we're going to love baby step 1. Maybe we're going to hate it, but we'll never know until we try.
right.
And we're not talking like make one cut and somebody's paralyzed here, It's like
Yes.
very basic shit.
But I think that is in that like, right, like this is, we talked about, I can't remember when I said this, what episode we were talking, but safety always wins. Safety always wins. And so if we talked about this when you talked about like the 6 thinking pattern and how you like reward yourself. I can't remember how, you would have to requote that because I can't remember exactly how you said it. But it's like that whole thing, right? Like if safety always wins and this way of being has kept you safe for so long, you're just going to keep doing that thing.
And what is so wrong with being vulnerable about because it's a risk then, right? If you don't know the outcome, you're perceiving that as a risk.
Right.
What is so wrong about just doing the thing, saying, caution to the wind, we're going to do it. And then you know what? If it ends up being terrible, I'll apologize for it later. And I'll have the vulnerability of like, hey, here, I tried it. It didn't work. And we'll keep it moving.
I think there's just so much fear in that of the,
I can't wrap my head around that because it's like,
well, it's
man,
again, in a lot of these things, it's the safety always wins, but it's also the like protecting yourself from abandonment, protecting yourself from loss. Like, what if you do the thing and then you lose your job because you did this thing? Now, in the work that you and I do, that's highly unlikely. That's how that would work. But people like like string those things together, right? Like, if I don't have this perfectly
right.
planned and now it's over budget, or I don't have this perfectly planned and then something terrible happens, I'm going to be
Yeah. I
held
mean,
responsible for that.
listen, we're not like, I kind of sometimes have this attitude of life is too short. There have been many times where I was like, yeah, tried it, didn't work.
Yeah, it
Whoopsie.
was worth a shot.
Sorry.
There's a lot of times like I will try something, I'll be like, because if it would work, it would be amazing. But I'm not going to know if it's going to work or not until I try it.
Yeah, I've
And then it
also
does,
used like
yeah.
my 2 manipulation in that sense though too. I'm like, hey, look at me trying new things. I'm brave. Don't abandon me. Look at how courageous I am. You just gotta
Sometimes,
like sometimes you gotta just manipulate a little bit.
well,
Even if
I
it's
think,
manipulating yourself.
well, even if it's manipulating yourself, but I think you could play that with any number. Sometimes in the 5 energy conservation thing, I will tell people things like, oh, I just did it that way because I'm lazy. It's not that I'm actually lazy, but it is because I want to save the energy. So if I can find a way, if I can like try something and that then saves me 2 mouse clicks, that's energy conservation, right? Or if I can put something in place that will like consistently deliver the output that I want it to deliver, even if the upfront part of it takes a bunch of work, in the long run it's going to save energy. So therefore it's like the lazy answer. That's oversimplifying, but that's a little bit to your point of like manipulating. It's the same thing in the 5. Like I'm trying to figure out how to conserve as much of my energy as possible.
I'm trying to make sure that I don't get abandoned in it, so I'll put some real sunshiny spin on a semi-reckless decision sometimes.
I make plenty of reckless decisions. It's fine.
I'm looking over and staring at this table that I bought one time while my husband was on a golf trip. I went to like a boutique like home store and I went with my 1 to 1 8 friend and I was like, "Ugh, I really want that console table for our bedroom. Do I need to spend $700 on it? Probably not." And she's like, "Girl, he's on a golf trip." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. We're doing it." And it is so heavy. Like, like it's a console table. It's like skinny long table. It is so heavy. I had it sitting in the garage when he got home and he's like, and it's like the simplest looking thing. Like this is not extravagant.
Of course it
And,
isn't.
and no, no. Am I glad I bought it? Yes. But like, so my manipulation of when he got home, I was like, we needed this and you were gone, but it's here now. And I need you to move it upstairs and it's going to be great. And I'm sorry it was $700. And he's like, what the fuck, Tannah? And I'm like, but it's fine. We need it. It's fine. It's fine. And then I held a
I don't
garage sale that year and it was fine.
Well, but I mean, that's not necessary. I mean, that's not manipulation, though.
I kind of manipulated the conversation after he got home. I gave him the rationale of like, man, golf trip and, like kind of wanted it. So I bought it. Remember how you were gone for a whole weekend? And I was home with our children? Feel bad for me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess it's good that you recognize it in that way, because I would very much just be like, I wanted the thing. Like, I don't know, talk about it.
Yeah, no. It was a
Aaron,
little
ten-
reckless.
Aaron tends to tell me to just like get it, because I'll do the thing where I like, and I think this is a very 5 thing too. Although you can tell me if you do this, but I've heard this from multiple people. Like, I will put N things in a cart and then just leave them there. I ruin all online company metrics because I abandon carts all of the time. Or I will put things in there and then I'll be like, I'll have to think about it. And then I'll like take it out of the cart and then put it back in the cart. And then what if this? What if that? Is that what I really want? What if it doesn't fit? What if this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk to Aaron about it like 16 times. Well, I've been thinking about this, but I'm just not sure. Or I've been thinking about that and I just can't make up my mind. And then finally at some point he'll be like, "Would you just buy it?"
My God, it's so funny you say that. And I'm wondering if this might be like a little generational, maybe. I have 2 friends who return everything, and it drives me crazy. Crazy. I'll go, this is same 1 to 1 8 friend. I'll be like, hey, and she lives very close by. Hey, I'm doing a Target run. Do you want to come? She's like, yeah, I actually have a bunch of returns. I'm like, how do you have so much shit all the time that you're returning? It's because she just hits, like, she'll buy everything in the 10 stacked cart. She returns 3/4 of it.
See, I hate to make returns. I
I
will avoid.
hate it.
I will end up keeping shit I shouldn't have kept because I hate making the return so much.
Yes.
But I will like just stack the cart and like again, I hate the return, whatever. But making the return takes energy. So I want to make sure that I've made the correct decision so I don't have to do the return. Like that's part of it. But I also will just doubt everything. I'll I'll put everything in the cart and I'll be like, oh, I should go read the reviews before I actually buy it. And then I'll go read all
Hmm.
the reviews and I'll be like, maybe that isn't actually what I want. Like, well, I'm not sure.
And I get a lot of my sister's stuff that she's bought because she also despises returns, and then things sit in her closet and she'll be like, I didn't return this in time. Do you want it? I'm like, yep, sure do. I'm so bad at returns. There is literally a werewolf costume from last Halloween still riding around in my trunk. I bought 2 of them because I was going to be like, who knows with this like Amazon sizing situation, which of these is going to be appropriate for layers because we live where we live. And in October, you never know. It is still in the back of my car.
Will it fit one of them this year?
I mean, that's kind of my thought process. I was like, fuck it. It was like $16. Insane. Absolutely insane.
Okay.
How
We should pivot to tri type if we're going to talk tri type before we run out of
much
time.
time do? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
And the
I would say
influence of
like
that.
I feel like knowing your subtype offers depth. I feel like having a tri-type education in your number offers layers.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about tri type in, I kind of hinted at it when I was talking about being a 1 to 1 5 and the guy we know that's also a 1 to 1 5 who I share a birthday with. But within the Enneagram system, just as a reminder, there are 3 main triads: the head triad, the heart triad, and the gut triad, otherwise known as action, thinking, feeling triads. And that your tri type is your highest score in the assessment in each of the triads. If you've learned the Enneagram in the narrative tradition, you could think of tri type as like the number you most closely align to in the feeling center, the number you most closely align to in the thinking center, the number you most closely align to in the action center to get to that tri type. But the very, very high level is that it's your thinks like, acts like, feels like in terms of each triad. So just use myself as an example quick, and I hinted at this before. I have a 5. I think like a 5. When I have feelings, I feel like a 4. And when I act or take action, I act like a 9. So that's like the way to think about tri-type.
So I am a 2 that feels like a 2, thinks like a 6, acts like a 1.
Thing for both you and I that's interesting is that within our tri-type, all 3 of yours are compliant numbers, all 3 of mine are withdrawing numbers. That's not always the case. It's not like it always works that way. It just happens to be that way for the 2 of us. But Aaron, for example, is a 9 who thinks like a 5 and feels like a 3. So then the feels like a 3 gives him an assertive number. So he has 2 withdrawing numbers and an assertive number in his tri type.
Yeah, my 8 husband, I believe, is thinks like a 6, feels like a 3, right? Yeah.
Acts like an
Which
8.
means acts like an 8, which means he reads angry and he doesn't like feelings.
And he's going to worst case scenario plan.
Perfect. He's a cactus, in other words. Very
The,
dry and prickly.
Yes.
But that was helpful. That was helpful for me to learn his tri-type. The reason it was helpful is because his 8 does read angry, passion, intensity, but the real, like, thing for him is that feelings are inefficient and inconvenient, because the worst case scenario kind of planning, like, that thinks like a 6, is, like, almost, like, reinforced by both of those others
Yes.
in a way, and the same thing with the 3, like, with the feeling 3 energy.
Well, and it can be the avoid, like, you can use the anger and you
Mhm,
can use the worst case scenario to
mhm.
mitigate the feeling. Like, to be like,
Yes.
right? Like, I don't need to feel that because I've thought
Yep,
through all of the scenarios,
yep.
right? Yeah.
The other thing that this is a recent example of this actually being really helpful is I had to explain this to him because our 7-year-old struggles with reading. My husband is super great about helping him read every single night religiously. So they lay in bed and they start reading. We suspect my oldest son also has ADHD. When he's reading, when it gets hard, he just guesses because he just wants to get it over with. And then my husband reads like he's frustrated because he's like, no, you're guessing. You know it. He's like, the energy is like trying to be a 3. He's feeling like, I want to coach you. I want to help you. I want to, like, that's what my husband is feeling in the moment. The way that it's coming off is like, I'm frustrated. You know this. Why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
So it was helpful because what I need to be careful of in these situations is solving it for my son because I don't want him to struggle and I want to fix it for him. I tend to, like, stand back and allow for this engagement to happen, right? So we just talked about it like a couple of days ago and I was like, "Well, this is how it's reading. Like I just need you to like understand." And also he's 7, so, like, his read on emotion is very baseline. Like, he's not thinking about why you might be the fact that you might be coaching him instead of being frustrated. He's not emotionally mature enough to understand that. So it was helpful for me to navigate that discussion with him because if you're not careful then, right, in that situation, it could read like I'm trying to be a backseat driver for him trying to do something to help him.
Yeah. I'll be very curious as your son gets older to sort of determine, we talk about it on here all the time, right? That he's trying on different types, that he's figuring it out unconsciously slash subconsciously, of course. But I do wonder, just in some of those kind of scenarios, like what is right? Like the solution for him is to guess the word
Mhm,
rather than sound it out. It
mhm.
does make me wonder if that is 3.
It
I'm trying to
might
be
be.
efficient. It's faster for me just to guess and hope that I'm right, to just move straight to action than to like
Yeah.
slow down and think about it.
He also, what's super interesting tonight. So I'm solo parenting tonight. And so I did the reading duty. And last night he's like, I don't want to read. And I was like, no, we're going to read. And he's like, if you read a book tonight, I'll read a whole book tomorrow. I was like, perfect. Sounds good. You got a deal. So he read the book tonight. And there were times that he guessed. And I was like, let's just try that one again. And sometimes he tried to guess again. And I was like, okay, let's break it apart. And then on the tricky ones that he would get right away, I'd be like, yeah, hell yeah, dude. That's great. And then towards the end, when I was starting to like help him on some things, he was like, no, I want to do it myself. And then at the end, when we closed the book, he's like, I did so good. And we've had major confidence issues,
Yeah.
particularly with this. So I was like, hell yeah, you did. You crushed that. So it's not that I'm doing it better than my husband, but I think he might also understand because we've had so many conversations together about like how we talk to ourselves and how we think about ourselves, that I think he's also understanding like what he's going to get from me in that situation. I think we might swap the reading duties for a while to see what happens with our confidence and go from there.
Well, and if he is trending towards little three, it would be important to him to feel successful, to be,
Mhm.
and how he rewards himself, but also how he perceives reward from you and your husband.
Yes. If I were to guess today, my guess is he's trending 3.
Yay, competitive achiever.
Shoot.
That's not bad. Some of my favorite people are threes.
I love you just the way you are.
Hold on.
It's hard to tell. That kid has been, the philosophy is when I'm damn good and ready. Really with him is like kind of always been his mentality. God, like with potty training, with everything. He's just like on his own time. And
That that reads 8, but
the
yeah.
second you would take the pressure off, he would do it on his own.
But isn't that like true of most things in life?
100%. It's like the power of suggestion and like, oh, you want me to do that? No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think I'm gonna do that right now.
I mean, I think some of it that's like true of so many things. Like I was reading, we're kind of down a rabbit hole of Enneagram threes here, and that's how we're probably going to close this one out. So we'll have to circle back on tri-type again some other time. But I was reading a Substack for lead singer of a band. He writes a Substack, and I was reading his Substack where he was talking about the pressure that he puts on his music. And he references that he's an Enneagram 3 in this blog post, which is fascinating to me. But he's talking about that versus like when the music is legitimately like very good is when he's removed the pressure and the expectations from it rather than like sitting in it and being like it has to land a certain way, it has to this, it has to that. I do think to that point though, right, when you like remove the pressure from something and the expectation from something, it often like comes about really naturally. Anyway,
Yes, I definitely agree. It's tonight was very thought provoking with him to take it back to like the 3 energy of, do you reward kind of like him? Generally speaking, re- I try to reinforce when he feels proud of himself. I don't remember what parenting podcast or reel or something I saw. I feel like you and I talked about this one time where it's
yeah, we've
like you like what does it mean? What's the body feeling associated with when you are proud of you?
well, and it's the building of like self efficacy. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah.
Versus like being reliant on external factors to validate
Yeah.
you for you to
Yeah.
feel anything. And I think that, like, I remember us talking about this before, but I think I've even read it in different places. And even though I don't have children, it's like the difference between like teaching a kid to be proud of themselves versus saying, I'm so proud of you. Because if you're like, I'm so proud of you, you're like, like
Yes.
encouraging them to
Yeah.
look outside of themselves for validation
Yeah.
versus are you proud of yourself,
Hmm.
building internal validation. And I say that
It
out
was,
loud, but I just have to on this rabbit hole really quick. I say that out loud, but I remember the phrase, are you proud of yourself, being like punishment.
yeah,
Like you had done something bad. It was like shameful.
I do remember that line very vividly.
Yeah. So there is, I mean, yeah.
But so tonight, you and I have talked about this before. It was a long time ago, but tonight when he was like, I did so good. I was like, yeah, how did that make you feel? He's like, I'm happy. I'm like, fuck yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And the other thing that I noticed with him is when he gets in like he can string some words together, he's moving his body in some way. And I just think that sometimes, and this is like a little bit of a parenting rabbit hole, but we don't pay attention to those things because I straight up asked him, I was like, when you're moving, is it easier? And he said, yeah. I'm like, okay, then go ahead, do
Yeah.
you? And it's almost like so then I asked him, I was like, does your teacher have a fidget like seat? You know how now in classrooms they have like seats that are like little wobble stools or whatever. And he's like, no, we don't have those. And we're like, that might be something that I need to suggest for his next classroom for next year is like, we have learned that he is in more of a flow state when he can move when he's trying to focus.
Again, not to make this about Enneagram 3s, but that also reads Enneagram 3. Because Enneagram 3s are often fidgety and need like this is one of the ways that 3s get misread all the time is that they tend to you know the whole thing about actually nobody's good at multitasking except for an Enneagram 3. Enneagram 3s tend to be good at multitasking, and it has to do with how they concentrate. Like they need the other thing to help them concentrate on like the main thing.
I am also that way. Like I have little magnet fidget balls at my desk, and I will sometimes bring them to meetings with me just to like, I need to do
Yeah.
something while I'm doing something else. And you will never find me doing any sort of task that I can possibly have a podcast on or music or something that I'm
Yeah.
also trying to focus on. And I'm a 2, but
Interest.
I'm,
Yeah.
just shy of being a 3.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Poor kiddo. He's like our little case study on this podcast.
Oh my
Someday he'll go
God.
back and re-listen to these.
Yeah. He's going to listen to these and be like, Mom, the hell? And why do you swear so much?
Eh. There are worse things.
He's a funny guy.
Okay. Well, this was fun. This was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. If you hung with us this long, thank you. And we want to hear from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share episodes with your friends, family, strangers. Don't forget our
Follow.
Substack.
Yep.
Follow us and leave a review if
Yep.
you can possibly. That would be lovely. And yeah, till
Yeah.
next time.
Till next time. Okay.
Thanks, Holly.
Talk to you later.
Bye.